Thank you, John. Thanks very much for coming. So, lamentations that special interests, by spending obscene amounts of money, were strangling the voice of the people. Fears that the nation was going to hell in a handbasket carried by lobbyists. These worries sound familiar today, but the same stories filled the press and the Capitol building in the 1870s. In the Gilded Age, when wave after wave of scandal uncovered congressmen who sold their votes and ruthless men like Samuel Colt and Collis Huntington, who arrived in Washington with boxes of pistols and trunks full of cash with which to buy them, a suave New Yorker, Sam Ward, reigned unspotted as the king of the lobby. Not only that, he transformed what it meant to lobby. Bribes of railroad stock weren't for him. The king of the lobby traded in information exchanged at dinner parties. Evenings that one guest gushed were the climax of civilization. At his table, the outlines of a new modern lobby, a lobby easily recognized today, took shape. King of the Lobby is about lobbying, power, politics, and money in Washington in the Gilded Age. It's also about delicious food, fine wine, good conversation, and how charming and disarming Sam Ward combined all three to create a new type of lobbying, social lobbying, and he reigned as its king for a decade. Scion of an honorable old family, brother of unassailably upright Julia Ward Howe, best friend of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, mathematician, linguist, California 49er, a spendthrift who squandered several fortunes, Sam Ward was one of the most amazing men of an era crowded with larger-than-life personalities. Sam Ward's story and that of the lobby would be impossible tales to tell with any depth or color or accuracy without the manuscript collections here at the Library of Congress. I'm very grateful to the staff of the Manuscript Division and of the Prints and Photographs Division. The papers of some of Sam's good friends are here: James A. Garfield, Thomas A. Bayard, William M. Evarts, and so are the papers of James G. Blaine, Benjamin Bristow, Salmon Chase, Hamilton Fish, Benjamin Brown French, Manton Marble, Benjamin Butler, who was Sam's nemesis, and many others. And together they provide a richness of detail that's helped me bring Sam Ward back to life. So here's the story of Sam Ward in a nutshell, and pecans were his favorite. Sam's early years gave no hint of his future profession. He was born in 1814, the first of 6 children, into an old New York family. His father, Samuel Ward, was a highly respected conservative banker with the rock-solid firm of Prime, Ward, and King. And Sam Ward, the son, was expected to someday take his place there. When Sam's mother died when he was just 10, his father was devastated and turned to religion. He gave up cigars, he took up temperance, and to the horror of his friends, destroyed all of the wine in his well-stocked cellar. He also became morbidly obsessed with his children's moral, spiritual, and physical health and tried to shelter them from the world. This handsome house that you can see on the screen was on the corner of Broadway and Bond in Manhattan, and it's the house in which Sam grew up. This image is from the New York Historical Society. It wasn't until Sam was a student at Columbia with both freedom and an allowance that he began to learn about the wider world. He claimed that he and his friends explored every oyster cellar and chop house in Manhattan. His favorite spot was a new little cafe on William Street run by the Swifts brothers, John and Peter Delmonico. The more he learned of the world, the less Sam wanted to be a banker. He somehow convinced his father to let him go to Europe to study before taking his place at Prime, Ward, and King. And by mid-1832, he was happily settled in Paris, which he called in his first letter home the city of sin and science. I'm sure his father was thrilled. Instead of studying at the Sorbonne, Sam threw himself into Parisian society. Charming, handsome, well-dressed, well-mannered, he graced every drawing room he entered. He dined at something new to an American, a real restaurant with tablecloths and individual menus. He developed a taste for subtle sauces and exotic vegetables like eggplant. He spent a staggering amount of money. He literally dined out for decades on stories of the men and women and the new experiences he joined during these years. And this is a stunning picture of Sam. It's still owned by a family member. It was painted in Dresden in 1836 when he was 22. Sam managed to stretch the original year in Paris into 3 more in Germany, during which he did earn a PhD in mathematics, and he met Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, a young widower preparing to take up a post at Harvard. They became best friends, a friendship that lasted for nearly 50 years. When banker Ward finally ordered Sam home, just as he had feared, Sam came back bursting with new music, dances, books, all the frippery of which the elder Ward had a horror. It was Sam's new ideas, however, which would infuse the rest of his life, and they clashed most sharply with his father's. Julia Ward Howe recalled one debate between the two shortly after Sam came home. "Sir," said my brother, "you do not keep in view the importance of the social tie." "The social what?" asked my father. "The social tie, sir." "I take small account of that," said the elder gentleman. "I will die in defense of it," impetuously rejoined the younger. My father was so much amused by this sally that he spoke of it to an intimate friend. Imagine, he will die in defense of the social tie, indeed. Despite his groanings in letters to friends, Sam did not spend all of his time at Prime Ward and King. He renewed his acquaintance with Delmonico's brothers, and as a cosmopolitan oldest son of a rich man, he was invited to every fashionable soiree. At one, Sam met Emily Astor, granddaughter of Gouty John Jacob Astor, the richest man in America. They were married in January 1838, and the months that followed were some of Sam's happiest. His father eased up on his hectoring. He had a wife he adored and who adored him. And in November, their first child, a little girl, was born. This painting by Anne Hall, also still in family hands, shows Sam and Emily on their wedding day. The first dark cloud was Samuel Ward's unexpected death in November 1839. Ready or not, Sam moved up the ladder at Prime Ward and King. Next, his brother Henry, who actually understood the banking business and on whom Sam relied, caught typhoid fever and died in Julia's arms. Then came the hideous death of Nathaniel Prime, the retired founder of the bank. Sam wrote to Longfellow, "Old Mr. Prime committed suicide yesterday by slitting his throat with a razor." There was a bright spot. In mid-February 1841, Sam dashed off a joyous note to Longfellow announcing the arrival of his first son. 2 days later, another note, this time barely legible, brought news of an infection that had set in and Emily had died. And 2 days after that, Sam's son died too. Sam was executor of his father's several million-dollar estate, partner now at one of New York's most prestigious banking firms, guardian of his 3 high-spirited sisters, a widower, father of a 2-year-old little girl, and 27 years old. Widower Sam was also one of the best catches in New York, and 2 years later he was caught by a beautiful young woman from New Orleans named Medora Grimes. Her mother was a fortune-hunting shrew who had brought her 2 spoiled daughters to New York to find rich husbands. No one but Sam and Suzette Grimes believed Medora was the woman for him. Longfellow was impressed by her beauty, but by little else, and he told Sam so. This is Medora in an 1852 book, The Book of Home Beauty. Deaf to all caution, Sam married Medora in September 1843. When Medora bore 2 sons in quick succession, Sam was ecstatic. His home life was happy again, but his business life was anything but. Urged on by Medora, Sam wanted nothing more than to make a lot of money and retire from business. Speculation, he was certain, was his ticket to fortune. In September 1847, Wall Street was stunned by the news that Prime, Ward and Company, worried about Sam's recklessness, King had withdrawn, had collapsed. Several $million were gone, and thousands more were owed to creditors. Broke, Sam had to rent his house. Suzette Grimes packed up Medora and the boys and took them off to New Orleans. Now 35, Sam was bankrupt, casting about for a way to earn a living. In the California gold fever sweeping the nation, he saw his opportunity. He joined the 49ers rushing west, set up shop on the San Francisco waterfront, plowed his profits into the town's booming real estate market, and made $250,000 in just 3 months. Sam adopted a much more rugged look in San Francisco. This image is from the New York Public Library. This new fortune went up in smoke when fire destroyed all of Sam's wharves and warehouses. With creditors hounding him once again, he became a ferry operator in the California wilderness. He got caught up in schemes of American and French adventurers in Mexico. He sailed for France, then Nicaragua and Costa Rica on mysterious missions, and bobbed up in New York, a wealthy man again.